essentially, asana yoga, it's just a prerequisite of the true yoga, which comes from meditation. Focusing on your spine. So the pranayam is essentially on your spine because that is where your major chakras lie. And as you are breathing in your spine, breathing from the base and you're breathing up the spine, moving your focus up, and breathing out, moving your focus down the spine, you are essentially going past each chakra and aligning them with each other.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lalwani Lounge. I'm your host, Lalwani, and in this episode, we had a great conversation with Anshita Jain about Dhyana, or meditation in English. Anshita is a Reiki Raj Yoga expert that has been practicing meditation for the last 15 years. She also has her own podcast called The Wakeful Being. I will highly recommend you check that out. The link should be in the description below. The Vedas, or the ancient Indian scriptures, have a detailed structure and detailed description of all the practices of meditation and yoga. In this episode, we talk about some of these concepts so that we better understand and incorporate them so that we live better lives. Please let us know in the comments below if you have any questions, if you want to discuss something, or if you would like us to do some more episodes on this concept. Enjoy the show. Hello, Anshita. How are you doing? It's been a long time coming. I've been wanting to have you on this podcast for a very long time, and I know we've been talking about this ever since you got more regular with your own podcast. That we should do a collaborative episode. So thank you for agreeing to be on the podcast episode.
Yeah, super happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to, the conversations that we're about to indulge in.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today is essentially meditation, right? If we talk to people on a normal basis today, you hear them talk about gratitude, talking about journaling, talking about meditation as part of centering them. But not a lot of people actually understand what meditation is. Some people think it's just sitting in silence or closing your eyes or things on those lines. But I thought it would be best if we have this episode where I can talk to an expert about understanding the whole idea of meditation. So, where would you like to start today?
Yeah, of course. So, let's start with like defining meditation. What is meditation, right? So, meditation is essentially reversing the outward flow of energy and interiorizing it. So, what that means is like when we, on an everyday basis, when we are going about our life, we're constantly looking outside, right? We're constantly, analyzing our relationship with the world, analyzing everything that we do from our external input and our senses. But how little time do we actually spend looking within, looking at what is actually going on in my mind, what is actually going on in my energy? So, meditation is essentially the process uh, that allows you to interiorize the flow of energy, so that instead of the flashlight constantly looking out, the flashlight is finally now looking within. So, to simply put it, meditation is the process of looking within.
Okay, okay. So when we talk about this idea of looking within, where do we actually start?
Start with wherever you are, right? The idea is that when you sit down and you close your eyes to meditate, you can't really go with an objective. The only liable objective that we really have is to just allow ourselves to be wherever we are, whatever mind space that we're in, just allowing ourselves to observe what is actually going on in our minds. Where am I? How am I feeling today? How have I been feeling? What are the types of thoughts that I'm having? Am I overthinking this? Am I thinking about something from the past? Am I thinking about something from the future? Am I analyzing something? Whatever it is, whatever is happening, right? The goal is not to shut off what is happening. Rather, it is to start observing, right? So you start by simply just being wherever you are. not to like overcomplicate, like, oh, I'm supposed to be X, Y, and Z to meditate.
Okay. So the idea essentially is to not clear your mind or essentially uh, go blank, but to actually focus or concentrate on independent thoughts and then working through them.
Partly, reason being, it can be hard to sometimes like focus. I don't know if focus is the right term here because what we really want to do is watch, study. You know, just as a scientist, for example, has a subject and is conducting an experiment and is studying its subject. Similarly, in meditation, we are the scientist and the subject is ourself. And the apparatus that we're using to study ourselves is our mind. So essentially, instead of trying so hard to focus, rather we just have to be at ease and we just have to kind of observe and study ourselves.
Okay, okay. So based on a little bit of knowledge that I have in terms of meditation, I know that Sanatan Dharma has a big contribution to this. I think a lot of Indian Vedic scriptures have information on the structure of dhyana, or which is modern day meditation, or understanding like all our chakras and things on those lines. Do you have any input on that as to what the structure is? How do we actually understand the idea of dhyana?
So essentially the root of meditation, uh, you know, all religions actually, the core of every religion is to get in touch with the spirit, the same encompassing spirit, no matter what religion someone is, right? So how do you get in touch with that spirit? That process of getting in touch with that spirit is meditation. Now, yoga, the Vedic history is the first organized way of essentially defining the process of yoga, of this union with the spirit. So let's actually define yoga. What does yoga mean? Yoga quite literally translates to union. And what that means is, in this context, is the union between our soul with the spirit, with essentially this all encompassing absolute God. So essentially, yoga has done this profound job of um, refining the methods of getting to that state. And yoga has been around for thousands of years, right? We don't exact Scientists don't even know exactly when yoga started, but it is said that yoga has essentially always been around, and it was actually passed down by Shiva himself. And now yoga actually just structures this process of uniting with the spirit in a very scientific manner, right? So essentially, the roots of meditation, that's kind of where it first started, right? Now, of course, Buddhism also, came about around 500 BC and, had its own structure of meditation, which is very, very similar to yoga itself. So essentially, like now that's where it was for thousands of years, and it has been practiced for thousands of years in, the Eastern religions, you can call it, or just that part of the subcontinent. But obviously, like now in the Western world, meditation is being picked up by many people. And a lot of obviously the inspiration remains from where the roots of the roots of meditation, I should say, it really is. That's where all of the inspiration of even Western meditation comes from. But a lot of it has become diluted in the name of um, eh, eh, not even, I don't even want to say in the name of, it has become diluted because the people that are teaching it don't completely understand what they're teaching, but they're just like so passionate about it that they want to teach, but they're teaching from like a half based understanding.
Right. So I I know that there's a lot of mention of yoga and meditation in a lot of the Indian Vedic literature, right? Which is essentially like 5,000, 6,000 years ago, and it's completely documented in Sanskritam. But there is like I know there were like traditions of information being passed down generation over generation orally for centuries before that, right? So there is like possibility that this was a piece of information that has come down from generations. So that's a very very interesting fact uh, that this was a practice that was followed on or followed by people for so many centuries before, as it's being picked up today as I guess a dumbed down version of it. Because whenever I'm talking to somebody, um, I'm very surprised as to what they think about the whole idea of yoga and meditation. I've met a lot of people that are essentially certified or essentially have this expert title in front of them, uh, and they don't even understand where yoga comes from. Like as an example, some of the basic parts of it. So it's interesting to see where it started and where it has come in today's world, right?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I used to feel if you were to have this conversation with me 5 years ago, I used to almost feel like a little salty about like all of these Westerners westernizing the concept of yoga, right? But, you know, my perspective on that has actually changed now. Reason being, there is a concept within yoga itself that you will find the teacher as per how deep your calling is. So now there's all sorts of people in this world, right? Now, the sincerity of how deeply do they actually want to grow and how ready are they to be on this path of really truly knowing themselves, how sincere is that calling? That sincerity in their curiosity is actually what is going to attract the type of teaching that they're going to pretty much go to, right? So ultimately, you know, if someone truly is sincere about learning about their true self, they're gonna find the true teachings. They're gonna find a true teacher who understands the teachings and has been embodying the teachings, right? Versus finding someone who has like completely dumbed it down, right? So really, there's something for everyone in a way. Um, and to be honest, yeah, like it's like whitewashed in many ways, but at the end of the day, more people are practicing some version of it. And if it's helping them, then, you know, I'm glad. I'm glad it's helping them. Maybe at one point in their life, they'll get to a point where they truly are devoted and curious about the true teachings, right? But maybe they're just not there yet.
Okay, okay. I also feel that since meditation is part of the Yoga Sutras, that it would make better sense for somebody trying to learn about this to have an understanding of what these 8 sutras are and how meditation, which I think is the seventh part of the of the Yoga Sutras, right? And I think it would be great if they would understand the whole idea um, and how meditation fits in this rather than just picking apart like one piece from a Lego set and trying to figure that out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So, it's, yeah, like you said, so essentially, just to kind of summarize, you know, the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali was the first time where the structure of yoga was actually written down. Like, but you know, it had been practiced for thousands of years before that. But now it was the first time it was actually written down. So Patanjali did this amazing job of defining essentially 8 limbs of yoga, as he calls it. Right. So now these practicing these 8 limbs of yoga and they build on each other. Right. So practicing these essentially allows you to reach the goal of yoga, the end and be all of yoga, which is reuniting with the spirit, from within. Now, the eight limbs of yoga are essentially yama, niyama, the asana, pranayama, pratyahara. Essentially, yama is defining the moral conduct that everyone should be living by, right? So it is non-harming others, being truthful towards yourself, not stealing and not wanting something that doesn't belong to you, and not indulging too much in sex, having non-attachment towards, the things that you own. And then, so, these things, once you start living a life based on these yamas, you essentially are preparing yourself for the next steps of yoga, right? So now the second limb of yoga becomes the niyama, right? Which is essentially some observances that we should be embodying, such as purity and cleanliness. So, if we live in an impure environment, that's not going to be an ideal environment for us to go within, right? So, and so next one being content, right? Being content with what you truly have. And austerity, right? Accepting but not causing pain to others. If pain is coming your way, you have to build an accepting attitude to it, that, hey, this is the circumstance I'm in right now. Let's just, go through this time and go through this pain, and it will end, right? And another one of the niyama is self-study, right? Studying yourself, essentially, and being open to higher truths. So now this becomes, the second limb of yoga. So now this is preparing us even further for the ultimate yoga, right? Now, third one being asana. Now, majority of people, the third one being asana, which is essentially what people know yoga as. Asana is essentially the yoga that we see, downward dog, all the positions, which is amazing, amazing for your physical body. Now, what that is meant to do is actually allow you to get the right bodily posture so that you can sit for meditation, right? So this asana yoga is really just a like the periphery. So essentially, asana yoga, it's just a prerequisite of the true yoga, which comes from meditation. So, but asana yoga is still amazing, right? Like it helps us minimize the restlessness, right? Because you're in a position for a moment, and that allows your body to slowly get rid of, first of all, these aches and pains, and then slowly be able to sit for meditation without aches and pains, right? So next comes pranayama. Now, in order for me to define pranayama, I have to define prana. What is prana? Prana is also is also known as chi, or life force energy. Essentially, what yoga says and the Vedic philosophy says, and even Chinese philosophy, pretty much all Eastern philosophy, I should say, um, is that there is this underlying source of energy behind everything in creation. This source of energy is the driving force that is giving us life, right? So when someone dies, for example, the prana, which is the life force energy, is actually leaving their physical body and not giving them the bioelectricity to keep on living, right? So essentially, we have this prana within us. And pranayama is learning how to control this prana. And essentially, pranayama is a set of breathing techniques. And breathing, why? Because prana is very much linked with our breath. Prana is actually being carried within our body through the vehicle of our breath. So, which is why we use our breath to control our prana. As you learn to control your prana, you essentially start becoming more and more aware of these energies that are going within, that are going on within, and which leads to the next limb of yoga, which is pratyahara, which means the interiorization of the mind. Essentially, what that entails is like just as you might have your flashlight, pointing externally, right? You're constantly looking outside for validation, et cetera, right? You are now finally interiorizing the flashlight and looking within, right? You're able to actually study the subtle sensations of like what is going on in your energy body, in your aura, and becoming more and more aware of the internal world. So that is pratyahara. So the next limb is essentially dharana. What that means is concentration, being able to bring your focus into the internal world, right? And a lot of people confuse this concept of concentration with, oh my God, I'm not supposed to have any thoughts. I'm having thoughts. That means I'm not concentrating. We need to get rid of this idea, right? It's it's really, really hard to stop our thoughts. So let the thoughts be, but rather are you able to notice, right? That is concentration. That the noticing is coming from the concentration, essentially. So are you able to notice what is going on, right? That becomes your concentration, your dharana. The next one is dhyana, which is the meditation. Now, meditation itself consists of all of these, right? So you see how all of these are essentially building on each other, right? So, the yama, niyama, the asana, you can kind of see all of those things as almost like our interaction with the external world. We're now like fixing everything around us and the way we interact with the world to set us up for the next phases of yoga, right? Which is the pranayama, the pratyahara, the concentration, the meditation, and samadhi. So meditation is essentially all of these combined, right? Like you are now meditating, you are doing dhyan, and which leads to samadhi. Now, samadhi is extremely hard to define, but it is this divine ecstasy, right? It is where you're actually completely one with God, with the absolute spirit, and you have no concept of I, right? So we live in like, so we have our consciousness, right? We have our subconsciousness, right? Our consciousness is like everything we're aware that we're doing. Subconscious is, our heart is beating, we're breathing, like that. Those things are all automatically happening through our subconscious. Now, there is super consciousness where your mind is still completely active, but there's no sense of I, there's no sense of your ego, and you are completely just with oneness with the spirit, with the higher truth. That is samadhi. Now, just to get to that last stage of samadhi, it can take years, decades of dedicated meditation practice, right? Lifetimes even. So we have to understand that is the goal, but we have to start somewhere, right? Yeah, like the goal seems like, oh my God, so far-fetched. I can't even imagine ever getting there, might be most people's thoughts, but we have to realize that ultimately the goal of our existence is to truly know our true self. And we have to start somewhere. So to sum it up, I mean, that is essentially the 8 limbs of yoga.
Okay, so based on all of these things, how does the idea of meditation now translate into today's world? Since we have like social media distracting us all the time, we have a lot of people trying to present themselves as somebody else, or there's constantly like Netflix shows, there's like shows on various different platforms. You're constantly scrolling through reels, everybody's trying to make more content. So there's always this sensory overload. So in today's world, how do we a get to a state where we can properly meditate, uh, and how does this idea of meditation translate in today's world?
Yeah. So obviously, we defined yoga, which means like union with the spirit, we union with your higher self, the absolute. But not everyone might want that, right? Which is totally okay. Now, essentially, this process of meditation has so many benefits, right? It can help you improve your focus, improve your concentration, in your everyday life. It can bring you more peace. It can have a lot of physical benefits, of your blood pressure increasing, of your heart rate decreasing, and so of your heart improving and so on. And a lot of benefits even for our brain. I mean, there's so many studies shown that literally the size of our amygdala, which is, the center that dictates our fears, right, is decreased from meditation. So really, there's so many benefits. So essentially, what I would encourage people to do is realize that there are thousands of benefits of meditation. What is it that you want in your life right now? And I promise you, meditation is going to serve you to get you there. So, everyone's purpose, everyone's desire of what they want in the next step in their life, what is it that they want to cultivate, differs. And that's okay, right? But this practice of meditation is literally going to expedite the journey of you getting to the point where you want to be, essentially. So, in the application of our today's world, like wherever you are, just pick it up. It's going to help you, right? There is thousands of studies nowadays proving the science behind meditation, proving the effects that it has on you. So, just as we work out to keep our physical body healthy, like we need to realize that meditation is the activity that we need in order to keep our mental health healthy.
Okay. So one of the practice that I usually do is a lot of breath focused work. So essentially, I focus on like inhaling, exhaling, and actually feeling my breath go inside my body, bring life to it, and then me letting go of my breath, and then doing that process again. It just allows me to kind of calm me down and also help me get into the right kind of mental headspace that I need to be in, like in whatever work I'm doing. Is would that be like a good place to start, if there's somebody new that's trying to get into yoga or meditation?
Yeah, definitely. So, I think at the end of the day, like I said, like initially, what was mentioning about how depending on the people's sincerity of, how deeply do they actually want the results, right? They will attract the practice as per their frequency. So, of course, start anywhere, right? Start like from for a very general audience, start anywhere. But ask yourself, do I ask yourself, what is my baseline of sincerity of how deeply do I want to know myself? If that question triggers something in you that like, yeah, like I do want to know myself. I do want to, know who am I beyond this physical body and really see results in my life and attract more abundance. And if you truly feel that inner calling deeply, then find a teacher who knows what they're talking about, right? So I teach meditation. I teach with an organization called Divine Heart Center, and you can find us, for example, if that's one place to start. But just see what you're inclined towards and just start somewhere.
Okay. And in today's world, we hear a lot of people trying to heal from past traumas, be it physical or emotional. Do you think meditation would be good for them as well to, get over, basically, initially be self-aware, understand what the traumas are, understand what the root cause of that trauma is, and kind of work their way um into healing themselves.
Oh, yeah. And that's the entire process of, that's literally on the journey of getting to that end goal, right? Of that super consciousness. You are working out all of your traumas. And the way that you're working out all of that is essentially your emotions have a energy frequency to it, right? Anytime that we don't process and release that emotion, that energy stays, latches on to our energy and creates an energy block, right? So, the way that meditation works on your emotional blockages, your traumas, et cetera, is by really working on the energy level, which is actually what we want, right? The therapy and all, journaling and all, it's very good. But meditation is highly effective. The reason being, we all have so much psychological junk within. So much, right? Like, I mean, the society has trained us to have all sorts of limiting ideas about ourselves. There's so much we need to untrain. So if imagine if like there is a beach and you are picking up each grain of sand and you're sitting there using your logical mind, rational brain, trying to understand this grain of sand, and you're like, okay, got it. On to the next, right? Next grain of sand. Let's go. What happened here, right? You keep picking up one thing at a time. It's gonna take a long time, right? The more effective way of doing it is zooming out from this beach, looking, understanding the abstract, because the abstract is going to essentially allow you to understand so much more. So essentially, meditation allows you to understand the abstract and work from the energy level to heal your mental well-being, to heal your traumas, essentially, because all of that is at the base is actually energy. So you're actually addressing the root cause of, whatever tragedies, suffering that you might have gone through.
Nice. So while we were talking about energies, one thought came to mind. There is this Nickelodeon show called Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's an animated series, and there is an episode, I think in season 3 or 4, where the protagonist of the show, and he actually goes to this guru who talks to him about the chakras and the pools, where they talk about, like, if there are some things that is blocking your energy flow emotionally. If you let go of that, and then the energy flows into the next pool, and then the next pool, and the next pool, for you to then align all your chakras. So essentially, there are a lot of things that block the energy flow from, like, the lowest chakra to the highest chakra. So it just, that entire visual was playing in my head while we were talking about this. So that was interesting.
Yes, I love that show. I watched it, the animated version as a kid. It was so great. Yeah, so we do have these chakras in our spine. And essentially, because we are all energy. Everything in this universe ultimately is energy. So we are energy as well. So essentially, we have these energy vortexes, right, along our spine called chakras. And they're centers of whirlpooling energies. And each one has a specific frequency and it correlates with a specific psychological trait about ourselves. It correlates with specific types of emotions, specific types of beliefs that we hold about ourselves. So essentially, like in meditation, one of so essentially within yoga, within the Patanjali yoga, Kriya Yoga is the scientific technique of getting to self realization, getting to knowing your true self. And what that actually entails is focusing on your spine. So the pranayam is essentially on your spine because that is where your major chakras lie. And as you are breathing in your spine, breathing from the base and you're breathing up the spine, moving your focus up, and breathing out, moving your focus down the spine, you are essentially going past each chakra and aligning them with each other. And imagine like almost like a hollow tube, right? And then you take a brush and this tube has full stuff. This tube is full of like junk and gunk and whatnot. And you take this brush, and this brush is essentially your breath and prana that's being carried. And you take this brush, and this tube is your spine, and you're essentially going up and down this tube and cleaning it, right? That's metaphorically what is happening within our spine with through our pranayam, right, on an energy level. So yeah, chakras, are very intriguing to a lot of people, which is great, good to learn about them. It's important to incorporate, a practice to align our chakras with each other, such as the pranayam that I was describing.
Nice, nice. So I think we can definitely have another episode on chakras and go into detail in that episode. But I think we have covered a lot of information today, and I'm pretty sure that that a lot of people will benefit from it. Just as like as we try to wrap this up, I wanted to ask you if there is like one piece of advice that you would give somebody who is just starting into this whole like could be yoga, it could be meditation, it could even be somebody just curious about should I even consider this. So what would your advice be to somebody, say, who's a newbie into this?
Yeah. I think I see a lot of people having these misconceptions of meditation that, like, I don't think I can meditate. I'm not capable because I can't turn my brain off. I can't turn my thoughts off. That idea needs to be thrown away. People really need to be educated on the fact that meditation is not about turning your thoughts off. It is about accepting yourself wherever you are, whatever mental space you're at, just allowing that to just be and simply just sitting, right? And closing your eyes and watching, observing. And, I want to urge people that, we have to, a lot of people are scared to face their own internal thoughts, right? That's why we have a billion distractions in this world, right? The entire industry, the capital industry, is pretty much just distraction to distract us from truly looking at what we are free to look at, which is within, right? So ultimately, we have to build the courage to be okay with self discovery. And, so we go into meditation with certain attitudes, right, that are really essential to cultivate and to determine your success and how long are you going to actually stick with this practice or not. First thing is realizing that we don't judge our, we don't, sorry. First thing is realizing that we cannot turn our thoughts off. It is okay to have thoughts. Second, we don't judge ourselves for having thoughts. When we have a thought, we're not like, oh my God, here I am thinking again. Look at me. I'm overthinking. Oh, damn it. No, let go of that dialogue. Just observe. What is it that you're thinking about? What did I just do? Okay, I just thought about what I need to do tomorrow. Cool. On to the next, right? On to whatever comes up in your consciousness in the next moment. Thirdly, actually, along with that judgment comes self-compassion, right? So essentially embodying that, like, hey, I'm not a perfect person and I'm on this journey of refining myself. So wherever I am, allow myself to have self-compassion for myself for whatever it is that I'm going through. And just let that be. Don't criticize yourself for feeling what you're feeling. Just feel whatever you're feeling, right? So, I think these three things, if we can do, which is allowing yourself to have thoughts if they come, not judging yourself, and embodying compassion, if we can have these three attitudes within our meditation, we are way more likely to continue with this practice on a daily basis. So, that would be my like advice to newcomers to, just start. And it's okay, it can be a scary place, but we are so capable of, looking within, and you actually end up feeling so good. And, after a point, you realize how good meditation feels, and you almost feel like addicted to it. And you're just like, oh my God, like I just want to close my eyes and like feel that peace, because you get to a point where you're able to start cultivating peace in a, snap peace.
I love it. I love it.
That should be a slogan for meditation.
We can make a t-shirt out of it.
Snap peace. But yeah, that's where you get to, and that's where, like the journey even enhances even further, and yeah, you just keep evolving.
Perfect, perfect. That's some great advice. And on that note, would you like to land this plane?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do it. Thank you so much, Anshita. It was lovely having you, and there was so many good things that we spoke about today, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna get a lot of people curious. Hopefully, I can have you on the show again to discuss some more about either yoga, chakras, and just deep dive into more of these concepts and more of ancient Vedic literature.
Amazing. Thank you for having me, Ajay. This was a, pleasure being here and chatting with you.
Of course. Well, until next time.
Amazing. Bye, everyone.